At the beginning of the movie, we see a couple who have come hiking in a forest, but they end up getting lost and start looking for help, especially since the wife has injured her leg. After walking for a while, they spot a large house deep in the woods. The husband leaves his wife outside and goes inside the house to look for help. The main door is locked, so he enters through the basement. Inside, the house is completely empty, and the telephone line isn't working either. Meanwhile, outside, the wife notices something in an upstairs room. We then see someone secretly recording her with a camcorder. Inside the house, the husband hears a noise coming from the upper floor and goes to check it out. At the same time, we notice something strange. When the wife looks directly at the camcorder, she suddenly becomes possessed. After this, the scene shifts. We are introduced to an orphan girl named Abby and her foster brother Steve. Steve has come to Abby's apartment, which actually belongs to her foster sister Laura, and Abby has been secretly staying there. Steve is there for a reason. He's a private investigator. He tells Abby that they've finally found information about her real parents and gives her the contact number of a child care officer. Abby calls the officer, who later visits her and reveals that her parents are no longer alive. However, their house is still intact, and Abby is the rightful heir to it. This means she no longer has to live in someone else's place. She can even sell the house if she wants. At first, Abby doesn't plan to sell it, but after Laura calls and verbally abuses her, Abby decides to sell the house so she can move to the city and buy a small apartment where she can live peacefully. After this, without wasting any time, Abby packs her belongings and heads out to check on her house. The house is located deep in a remote, isolated forest, far away from the city. There's no taxi service available to get there. So after getting off at the train station, Abby stops by a bar. But the people there aren't happy to see her at all, and they all refuse to give her a ride. However, a guy named Kyle agrees to drop her off at her house. Kyle tells Abby that no one likes to go anywhere near that place, which is why no one was willing to help her. So the problem wasn't Abby, it was the location of the house itself. We also noticed that Abby and Kyle seem to like each other, but Kyle has work to do, so he eventually leaves. After that, Abby goes inside the house and carefully checks everything. The house itself is in decent condition, but everything inside is scattered and messy. She even finds an old bottle of alcohol. Abby continues exploring and heads upstairs, where she finds her old swing with a doll placed inside it. Near the window, there's a camcorder, and inside a box, she discovers a bunch of tapes. This is the same house shown at the beginning of the movie, and it turns out someone had been recording that mysterious lady using that camcorder. Anyway, after this, Abby gets a call from Steve and steps outside. Steve tells her that he got a call from a real estate agent who can help sell the house. He asks Abby to send some pictures of the property, then hangs up. As Abby heads back inside, she notices someone in the upstairs room, but she brushes it off, thinking it's just her imagination. Later that night, Abby connects the camcorder to a TV and starts watching the tapes. The recordings show her mother, Cameron, and her father, Jason. Seeing them makes Abby really happy. One strange detail, though, Cameron and Abby look almost exactly alike. As Abby continues watching, she suddenly notices a glitch on her mother's face in one of the tapes. For a split second, it looks like another woman's face is overlapping Cameron's, and that face is staring directly at Abby. But Abby is too emotional and distracted to pay much attention, and she keeps watching the tapes until she eventually falls asleep. While Abby is asleep, we see someone standing outside her room, watching. And then, silently, they walk away. The next morning, Abby tries on her mother's dress and finds a report revealing that her father, Jason, had a neurological condition and didn't have long to live. Later, Abby goes out for a jog, comes back and takes pictures of the house so she can sell it. After that, she goes to take a shower. But when she comes back, she hears footsteps coming from downstairs. She goes to check and notices that the camcorder is now lying near the window. When she looks through it, she sees something terrifying, a man standing outside the window. But that man was only visible through the camcorder. So Abby assumes the camcorder might just be malfunctioning since it's quite old. Anyway, shortly after, Kyle shows up He came to check if Abby was okay. But Abby starts questioning him about what really happened to her parents. Instead of answering directly, Kyle tries to lighten her mood and takes her to a pub, where he plans to explain everything. There, Kyle tells Abby that she'll have to uncover the truth about her parents on her own. He then shows her an old news video, and Abby learns that many years ago, her parents died by suicide, basically by setting themselves on fire. Abby, however, somehow survived. But the mystery behind it remains unsolved. The most terrifying part? 13 bodies were found in that same house, all badly disfigured, and they were all her mother's patients. Cameron, Abby's mom, was a therapist. As for Jason, only his teeth were recovered because the rest of his body was completely burned. That's the reason people in town dislike Abby. In fact, they avoid even going near that house. They believe Abby's mother was a witch, and that Abby is one too, just like her. Suddenly, a man shows up and starts yelling at Abby, telling her to leave. Kyle steps in and takes Abby away from there. He drops her home, but Abby invites him inside. They talk for a bit, and Kyle places his cap on the table. It's clear they have feelings for each other, and things start to get intimate. Later that night, while Abby is asleep, Kyle quietly gets up to leave. But then he hears a TV playing in another room. When he goes to check, he sees something shocking. The TV is playing his own live footage. At first, he thinks it's some kind of prank. But the moment he looks toward the camcorder, something takes over him, just like the possessed woman from the beginning. On the TV, we see two demonic hands grab Kyle's face and rip it apart from the middle, but those hands are only visible on the screen. The next morning, Abby realizes that Kyle is nowhere to be found. Worried, she goes to check the tapes and discovers another box filled with recordings of Cameron's therapy sessions with her patients. She first plays a tape of a man named Adam, and everything seems completely normal. But then, she plays another tape, this time of a patient named Kevin. In it, the man appears terrified. He claims that a demon is living inside his body. However, Cameron, who is Abby's mother, doesn't believe him. Suddenly, the man becomes possessed. His behavior changes instantly, as if something truly evil has taken over him and is now speaking directly to Cameron. The most shocking part? This evil entity somehow knows that Cameron is pregnant and that she's going to have a daughter. Then, out of nowhere, the man looks straight into the camcorder as if he's looking directly at Abby herself. Speaking through him, the entity tells Cameron that her baby looks just like him. Moments later, the man snaps out of the possession and starts reacting the same way Kyle did before. And just like that, the tape abruptly ends. This means that the demon had already seen Cameron's future, years ago. Terrified, Abby tells Steve everything. Steve urges her to come back, but Abby refuses. Instead, she starts going through Cameron's notes. In one of them, it's written that the camcorder itself might be evil, and that it can somehow see into hell. Abby then picks up the camcorder and turns it on, deciding to record everything. But what she sees through the lens shocks her. There are bloodstains all over the walls of the house. On one wall, there's a strange symbol, the symbol of Baphomet, possibly a sign of the devil himself. Still holding the camcorder, Abby slowly makes her way up to the attic, where she finds a lone chair. As she scans the room through the camera, she suddenly sees something behind her. Terrified, Abby runs out of the house. Outside, she runs into Kyle's sister Paige, who has come looking for him since he never returned home the previous night. She reveals that Kyle had posted online saying he slept with a witch, and that witch was Abby, who was seen sleeping in the post. Abby insists that Kyle left the house the night before. But inside, Paige notices Kyle's cap lying on the table. She doesn't say anything and quietly leaves. After Paige is gone, Abby discovers more recordings in Cameron's notes, this time involving a man named Dr. Frank. In the recording, he warns Cameron that the camcorder itself is evil, and that the same demon that possessed Kevin may have now turned the camera into its vessel. Frank tells Cameron that until the camcorder situation is fully dealt with, she must not record any patients using that camcorder, because it could cause serious problems. Meanwhile, we see Paige, who has secretly entered a house. She hears a noise coming from the attic, so she goes upstairs to check. There, she finds a camcorder lying